Well, guys, I found another hole. This one angles back in. It's a little bit smaller at the beginning, and you go in that way, and it turns back that way. So I don't know what's in there. I do see more dirt on this one than previous, but I have no idea what I'm looking at. At first I thought, let me show you. Here again is this tunnel, and then if I pan, I'll slowly pan so I don't make you guys sick. Pan this away, right over there to the chicken yard. Inside that chicken yard is where the other hole is at. So I thought, well, maybe they connect, but the hole that I'm standing at goes out in front of me, and the hole over there in the chicken yard goes over to the right towards that small green building, not the big barn, but the little small green. The hole down in the chicken yard seems to go that direction. So who knows? We're still on the hunt. Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's beautiful here in Oklahoma. The sun is shining. It's warm. It's been really chilly for the last week. Today you can actually go outside if you're in the sunshine. At least for me, if you're in the sunshine, I'm fine with my short sleeves, maybe a light jacket. But as usual, the wind is blowing. It is Oklahoma, and so you guys are getting used to seeing me in other locations because it's just too windy sometimes to be able to get out and talk to you outside. But all's not bad. We're out here. I am at least enjoying the sunshine and the pretty view behind you guys. I'm looking out at the cow pasture and looking at the cows and looking at the baby calves and everybody running around, including the dogs. And Sadie and Buddy are having fun. And Foxy, he's just kind of sitting back looking at them patiently, trying to get them to leave him alone. But earlier today, I was in the kitchen washing the dishes, and I was enjoying those big windows that Howie put in for me. And I like to have little trinkets there, and my mom always had trinkets there in her kitchen window, and my granny did too. And so Howie built those for me, and I enjoy standing there washing dishes and looking out at the cow pasture, and that's what I was doing today. And I happened to notice a big flock, or whatever you call it, of those buzzards. Well, the first thing that those buzzards do when I see a bunch of them is they set off alarm bells, warning bells to me that something may not be right. Either I've got a cow that's calving, or something might be down and sick, or maybe even I already died. And so that usually gets you looking to get you investigating to see, what might possibly be going on. And after I dealt with all of the things that went around with those buzzards being out there today, I got to thinking about them. Now, I did a little bit of investigating, and I like to do that. That's just how I am. I like to look things up and read about stuff. And so I read about these buzzards. And around here we call those big birds buzzards. And I know that other people call them vultures. Now I'm talking about the ones that we have here in the U.S. And so I learned that there's 3 different types that are here in the U.S. There's the turkey buzzards, or vultures, whichever word you want to use. There's the black-headed buzzards, and then the condors. And I've never seen a condor. They're out in California and I guess maybe Arizona. But anyway, we have the turkey buzzards, and we have the black-headed buzzards, both of those. And this is not a nice thing to say, but I think they're some of the ugliest birds I've ever seen. They're not very pretty at all. But they have a purpose, and their purpose is to clean up those things that have expired, whether, they got sick and died, or you hit them on the highway, or whatever happened to them. Those birds are here to clean that stuff up. And for the purpose of, number one, they get a dinner, but number two, they keep things cleaned up, and they keep disease from spreading throughout, the animal world, and even for us, they keep those things clean. But most of us, when we think about buzzards, we're not thinking pleasant things about them. We're not thinking good thoughts. So I did some research on buzzards, and I thought, let's talk a little bit about buzzards and their human counterparts. Now, buzzards, they don't counsel. They don't encourage. When they come in on something, if they say, for instance, I've got a cow down up here that it has already died, or a calf, or whatever it could be. It could be an armadillo, something out in the pasture that's passed. When those buzzards come out there, they're not there to counsel. They're not there to encourage. They're not there to, try to get that animal to, muster all of its strength and to get itself restored and revived and brought back to health. That's not what those buzzards are there for. Those buzzards are there to strip the bones clean when that animal expires. That's what they're there for. This time of year, I have a pasture full of cows that are expecting babies, and they've already started. They started late December starting to have them, and I'll have cows for the next several months having babies. A lot of the time, you don't have any trouble with a cow at all. In fact, you'll get up the next morning and you'll have a cow standing there with a calf that she birthed, and she had no problems, and the calf is up and drinking, and they amaze me of how soon they're up and drinking, and they'll be running around the pasture and bucking and having a good old time. A lot of times that happens, but sometimes a cow will have problems for whatever reasons, just like we do in human mothers. They'll have problems and they need attention. Sometimes we get them up in the lot, get a veterinarian out, or we're able to help them birth their calves. But there's other times that, for whatever reason, perhaps they go into labor at night or whatever. You guys know, those of you that's on farms know that things happen sometimes. Sometimes they can not necessarily have any trouble after the baby is born, but they really labor for a long time. And it doesn't have to be any, news sent out. There doesn't have to be any reports sent out. Those old buzzards know when that mama is having distress. Buzzards have an extremely keen sense of smell and sight. Now, we tease a lot of times, and I know I've said that on here before, being out in the yard, needed to move when I was out doing stuff so that the buzzards up above me would know that I was still alive. Well, that in its own self is really not a true statement, because contrary to what people think, buzzards don't really have that sense about them that they can just sense that something is dying. You see the old westerns where the cowboys may be buried up to their necks in sand, and the buzzards are setting up on those the old wood, and the cactuses just kind of sitting over there waiting for them to expire. Well, they don't really have that power within them, but they do have a keen sense of smell and sight. And so they know when these cows are in distress, or even when a cow is just simply down to have her calf. And if you've been on a farm, or if you haven't been on a farm, I'll tell you how it is. Those birds will congregate, and it's not 1, 2, or 3 birds. Usually there's a great big flock of them, and they come in and they just sit there and stare the cow down the whole time, and they walk back and forth and pace back and forth, and they're just waiting for any moment to be able to be the first one to be able to partake of that meal that they think is coming for them. Those buzzards will come great distances sometimes, and you'll see them way up in the sky. They're really good flyers, and they have miles that they travel, and looking for their prey, looking for something that is dead or dying. Sometimes in life we wonder where the buzzards have come from. You know, sometimes in life we face things. And we run into people that are a lot like those buzzards. They're not there to counsel us. They're not there to encourage us. Pardon me. They're not there to offer any kind of words that would get us to rally and try to survive what it is that life has thrown at us. They're there simply to get us down and to do their best to really destroy our character and destroy who we are as a person. We wonder where in the world those buzzards have come from. Now, right now, I'm referring to people. You know, sometimes we wonder where in the world they came from. You know, how in the world did they know that we were in distress? How did they know that we were in trouble, that, you know, something has happened and thrown us off kilter? You know, we've lost a loved one, or we've lost our job, or, you know, we've been sick, or we are sick. We're in, you know, great distress for whatever in our life. And here are these people, here are these vultures, here are these detestable people that are there just to cause us more pain and suffering. They're not there to help us. They're not there to encourage us. They're not they're not there to offer us a hand up. They're simply there to tear us down. And I bet every one of us can say that we've crossed paths with somebody that's like that. Someone that their whole purpose in life seems to be to destroy those around them, to bring sorrow and suffering to those around them. Buzzards, the birds, they pick at the weak and the sick and the wounded, or those that have already gone on. They say that turkey buzzards will only bother things that is already dead. I don't know. That's what they say. But the black buzzards, and that's we have both here, black buzzards and the turkey buzzards. The turkey buzzards have red heads. The black buzzards, they're black. They're bald, but they're black. Anyway, they say that they will attack your little calves or your little animals, lambs. I don't know about little piggies, but they'll pick at their navels. You know that their navel's a weak spot. Their eyes, their nose, their mouth, all weak spots. And they get those mamas so distressed. I've seen them out here in our pasture. Oh, those mamas will get so upset. And those birds will kind of spread out and kind of come in from different directions. Mama will be facing buzzards in front of her, and her baby's over here to side. And then here come these other buzzards back in behind her. And they kind of hop along, you know, just real. One thing about buzzards is they have weak feet. They're not strong in their feet and big talons like the eagles and the ravens and the hawks, and they're not like them. They have big feet, but they're weak on their feet and they're clumsy, and so they kind of hop and skip around, and they get the mama so distressed. In fact, the last one that we had that we lost, we weren't 100% sure whether the buzzards actually killed the calf or mama accidentally stomped the calf to death trying to get away from the buzzards. That sounds really cruel, I know, and to people that aren't raised on a farm, those things happen sometimes, and they're sometimes unavoidable. They just do. But those old stinky buzzards, they come in there and they do everything that they can to get mama refocused and get her so worked up and distressed. We have people that'll do that in our lives. They come in, it's your weak times, your sick times, the times that you're not 100%. And they present fear, and they present danger, and they present all of these things to you, and that you just can't fight off, that you really need help. One thing about these cows, if they're in here in a group together, and that's what we're trying to do, is keep our mamas, our expecting mamas, and our new mamas in here together. And when they're in here together and they give birth, the mama cows that are already in here will kind of help her to protect her baby, and they'll chase those. I've seen them come across the pasture after those old birds. Now, the whole time I was growing up, I heard the adults around me say, that old buzzard, that old turkey buzzard, that old buzzard. And I didn't understand it at the time, but have since come to realize, as become an adult, they didn't mean that as a compliment to call somebody an old buzzard. They were meaning it that that person was cantankerous, or they were mean, or they were somebody that you just absolutely couldn't stand to be around that person. And there are people that I have known my entire life that were just as mean, they say, as rattlesnakes. You couldn't do anything to please that person. It seems like nothing suits them and nothing makes them happy. And when they're in your life, that's what they'll do for you. They just constantly pick at you. You'll see those buzzards out there, and they're constantly picking. And they may not actually, if it's a cow and a calf, the calf is alive, you'll see those old buzzards out there, and they're just picking. They may not be actually touching the calf, but they're just picking all around it. You know, they're really after trying to clean up after the mama, and so they're trying to get after that stuff. And they're all out there, you know, and it's got everybody all worked up and all just nervous and you know, beside themselves. And that's what human buzzards will do that too. They just pick and pick and pick and pick, and you know, just when you think it's over, they'll pick again. I worked with a man when I was very young, my very first factory job that I ever had, and there was this man in there, and he probably wasn't a whole lot older than me. I was 18, and he was probably in his 20s, but he picked at me all the time. And him and his wife or girlfriend, I don't know if they were married or not, they both worked there, and she didn't bother me, but he picked on me constantly. And he was somebody that had been a Christian at one time. And he knew that I was a Christian, knew that I went to a Pentecostal church, knew the things that I had been taught. I had been raised that way. And the way he talked to me made me think that he probably at one time might have perhaps been in the same denomination that I was in. But he just constantly picked. And the more he picked, the more rattled I became trying to run machinery and do the things that I was supposed to do on my job. And he just tormented me. And that's what they'll do. That's their sole thing in life, it seems to be, is to pick on someone else. Now, we see that happening in the world today. There's those out there that, you know, not just those that'll have something to say on your social media because it's easy for them to hide behind their screens. But no matter what walk of life you're in, there's always somebody there that seems like they're there to discourage. They're there to pick. They're there to clean the bones, so to speak. And we need to be cautious of those people. You know, they say birds of a feather flock together. Well, we need to decide we don't want to be part of that flock. We want to be part of a different flock, and we need to flee from them. Another thing about buzzards that I found very interesting is that they don't have a voice box. And they don't call it a voice box for birds, I know that, but they don't have a voice box. Well, what are most birds known for? Most birds are known for their song, from chickens to turkeys to blue jays to all the little songbirds. That's what they're known for, their feathers and their voices. And I found it interesting that the buzzards they don't have a song. They make hissing noises, and they clack their bill together, and they make grunting noises. I even listen to the noises that they make just because I wanted to know what it sounded like. And it really some of them sound like someone clearing their throat. I mean, there's nothing appealing to it at all. And I thought about those birds, and I thought what they're meant for: cleaning bones, cleaning up rotten flesh and disease, and doing all of that. And they have no song. And I thought about their counterpart that we're talking about today, people that we could consider old buzzards. And they don't have a song. I thought how sad it is for those old birds, and how sad it is for the human counterparts, those that have no joy. They have no joy in their life, and so they don't have a song to sing because they're not happy, they're not joyful. Their way of getting through life is hissing and grunting and keeping people at a distance. They're so miserable, and they don't want any part of any kind of joy, and they're out to destroy anybody that has any joy. The thing today is to attack seemingly innocent things, all kinds of things that bring joy into people's lives. There's those there that said, yeah, but this is happening and this is happening. And we don't want to encourage people, and we don't want to lift people up. We just want to be there to pick their bones when they're suffering and when they're down and when they're out. But I thank God that He puts people in our place that will encourage us, that'll go along the path with us and rejoice with us when we rejoice. They'll cry with us when we cry. There's a difference in being somebody that is there to just get from you what they can get, and those that are there that'll help carry you or help lift your hands. Remember when in the heat of battle and Moses' arms would get heavy and the children of Israel would begin to lose the battle. And then those that were by his sides would help lift his arms back up, and they would begin to win the battle. Those are the type of people that you need around you. Those that are there to champion. Those that are there to encourage. Those that are there that have a song in their heart that can, give out a call of joy and great praise. And not those that are simply sitting there grunting and hissing at you, waiting to, clean up the bones. I'm not saying it's totally impossible to turn a buzzard into a beautiful songbird. In the natural, we know that's not possible. You couldn't pull all that buzzard's feathers out and put big colorful feathers in. You couldn't put a voice box in his throat and make him sing a pretty song. He's not wired to do that. From the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, that bird is designed just for a certain purpose. And there's people that come into our lives for seasons, and we don't understand it, but their purpose is to try their best to discourage and to tear us down and to pick at us. We don't know why, but it'll make us stronger if we have a plan of how to deal with the old buzzards in our lives. How do we get rid of them? If you watch the cows out here, I told you that the mama cows will come together and they'll chase the buzzards off a lot of times. Today there was a little calf out here, and there were several groups of those buzzards, and I seen them. They were taking care of what they're meant to take care of off down in the pasture, but a certain group of them flew over to another area of the pasture, and there was a little calf standing there. He's probably 3 weeks old, and so he's pretty strong little calf. And they'll surprise you. They get strong really fast. And he was standing there off by himself, and those birds congregated around him, and I was really watching because I was ready if I needed to do something. And so the birds, they just kept, gathering around him and going in towards him and walking back out and in and out and in and out, and he kept looking at them and he was looking around. And it wasn't long until he started calling for his mama, and she started calling for him, and you seen him started walking across the pasture, and he stepped away from them, and he got back to where he was supposed to be. And that's the first thing that we need to do, is we need to get back to where we're supposed to be as God's children. If you know the Lord and you've walked away from him, get yourself back in the pasture where you're supposed to be. Be joyful. Have a song, have a call, have every day find a time to be joyful, to rejoice and lift the Lord's name up in praise. If you're driving down the road and that's the only time during the day that you have personal one-on-one time with the Lord, and you're driving down the road, hey, I've done it before. Howie's done it before. We just praised the Lord and sung our songs and prayed and had a good time with the Lord. And when you get to the four-way stop, or you get to a stoplight, and the people in the next car is looking over at you like trying to figure out who in the world and what in the world you're doing, it's not so bad anymore, because so many people have that little thing in their ear, or their car is wired for their phone. And so now people can talk and they don't think you're crazy. So that's a good thing with technological advances now, as people think, oh, she's just on the phone. But, be joyful. Have a time of praise and fellowship with the Lord. Be full of life. Scavengers are usually cowardly. Those people that are out there just to steal from you what they can, they steal your joy and they steal all these things, they're cowardly. And they advance on you because you're in a weak state. They advance on you because your mind and your heart, there's something there. But if you can work through that and hold on to your peace and hold on to your joy and realize who you are in the Lord, and be full of life, those scavengers are cowards, and they will scatter. Just like they do out here in the pasture when those mama cows get after them, they scatter because they see life springing forth. Think about out there on the plains over in Africa when you see those lions stalking their prey and the other animals stalking their prey, like water buffaloes or antelopes or whatever, or zebras, and they've honed in on this young one, or one that may not be quite up to par. And all of a sudden, when they pounce, the animal that they were stalking springs to life, and they take off running, and they weren't prepared. The animal of prey wasn't prepared for them to spring to life, and a lot of times they get away. So be joyful, be full of life, be encouraged, and allow yourself to be encouraged. There's times in our life where we're sad. Yes, something happened and we're sad. There's times where we're sick. There's times when things happen, and we're human, and we are full of emotion, and we do face those things. But don't let yourself get into a state where you're just ready just to lay down and die, because that's when they'll attack, and that's when they will overtake you. You have to be willing to live life, be full of life, be joyful. Don't stand still for them. That little calf this morning, it cried out, it heard Mama's voice, those birds was bothering him, and he didn't just stand there and let the birds get him. He didn't just stand there and wait for Mama to get across the pasture to him. He started stepping out. He was faithful that he knew Mama was right over there at the other side of the pasture, and all I got to do is get to her and Mama will take care of these big old mean birds. So don't stand still and let them steal your joy. Don't stand still and let them take your very life away from you. You move. Begin to move. Get trucking across that pasture. The last thing, but certainly the most important thing that I would tell you tonight is make sure that you find the shepherd. You know, when those birds of prey, those scavengers, those big old mean buzzards are coming at you, find your shepherd. Those of you that know the Lord knows that that's where your rest is, that that's where your peace and your strength and your joy comes from. If you don't know the Lord, it's so easy to know Him. If you feel in your heart that He's calling you, then you just simply have to yield your life over to Him. Give your heart to Him. Confess your sin. Acknowledge it. And just simply allow Him to forgive you. And He'll save you. It's that easy. So that's my best advice to you, is to find the shepherd and don't allow those old mean buzzards to get you. Well, guys, we've come to the end of another Tuesday night conversation. Who knows what I'll bring to you next week? You never know what I might see out of my kitchen window. Until next time, guys, I love you. I really do. And I hope that I encouraged your hearts, gave you something that would remind you to be joyful, to be full of life, not just to stand still for those that are coming to bring harm against you, but most importantly, find your shepherd. Love you. Till next time, we're gone.